Hey guys, what is up? Welcome to my new video. So I'm gonna kind of do something a little bit different on my channel, and it's gonna bring the nerd self inside of me just like out. And so I'm going to basically be doing a book review of In 5 Years, a novel by Rebecca Serle. Apologies if I say that wrong. I did not look up her name before this. She's the author of The Dinner List. So basically, this is what the cover looks like. It is so freaking cute, you guys. Like, I don't know what it is. Maybe it's like the gold. Like, is this gold? I don't know. But I just thought it was really cute. Obviously, it's New York City. You have the Statue of Liberty right in the middle of this. And so I picked it up at my local Target, and I have been seeing this all over my Goodreads, and so that's pretty much just like another whole reason why I wanted to pick this up. But in regards to the way I'm going to do these videos, so like I said, this is like all about my nerd side coming out. So if you are completely here for like my vlogs and other stuff, like I'm sorry if this may not be like for you, but like this is something that I always watch on YouTube. It's just book reviews and stuff like that. So I thought of what I'm gonna do is basically, I'm just gonna read this. You'll see me do it in real time. And then every once in a while, I'm just gonna stop the camera just to talk about what's been going on. And so let's just jump right in, shall we? So In 5 Years, I picked it up because of what, obviously like the cover, but of what is in here. And let me read it to you. So it says, where do you see yourself in 5 years? Dani Cohen lives her life by the numbers. Her every goal has long been mapped out and accounted for. To her mind, the unpredictable does not exist. She is nothing like her lifelong best friend, the wild, whimsical, believes in fate Bella. So when Dani is asked the proverbial question at the most important interview of her career, she has a meticulously crafted answer at the ready. Later, after nailing her interview and accepting her boyfriend's marriage proposal, Dani goes to sleep, knowing she is right on track to achieve her 5-year plan. But when she awakens, she's suddenly in a different apartment with a different ring on her finger and beside a very different man. Dani spends 1 hour, exactly 5 years in the future, before she wakes again in her own home on the brink of midnight. But it is 1 hour she cannot shake. She tries to move on by burying herself in work and striving to excel, barreling towards that 5-year goal line. But everything changes the night that she, in the most unimaginable way, comes face to face with him, the man from her long ago dream. Dani's hard-held plan begins to unravel as she is pulled faster and faster toward that fateful hour. In 5 years is an unforgettable love story, but it is not the one you're expecting. Expertly paced, finely observed, and utterly heartbreaking, this is a book readers will not be able to put down. And you know what? According to Goodreads, you can't put this thing down. People were talking, giving it 4 stars, 5 stars, and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna have to do this. So I can't wait. So I'm just gonna start diving in. And by the way, guys, so yes, this is my bed and I'm trying to get cozy. Okay, like it's after working hours, so I'm trying to relax and get my mind out. I just hit my hand on my table. Okay, anyways, and this is actually a comforter, or not really a comforter, it's a makeshift comforter. We're just gonna roll with that me and Alex have been using because it's been too hot for us to use our actual comforter, and so we pulled out this. I mean, there's like multiple, like we have a purple one and a blue one, and this is just to keep us like lightly warm at night, just because we're both been like burning up. But anyway, so I'm gonna get comfy and I'm gonna start reading this. Let's see how this goes, you guys. Hey guys, so I just finished chapter 1 of In 5 Years, and I'm just gonna say it, like I think I'm gonna be hooked in this book. I can really relate to the main character. Like, she's like a super numbers person, which I'm like no mathematician. Like, I'm not a math genius, but like the way the way my mind works, it's very similar. So like, it starts off, she's in her apartment, her boo thing David's there, and she's just like, oh, it takes 22 seconds for him to make the coffee, or it takes me 43 minutes to get ready for my work day. If I wash my hair, it takes me like 36 minutes if I don't wash my hair. And so she's just like going on about how she's just like, she goes through everything by numbers, and she's like super strategic, and she plans like legit everything. And that's like me. Like, I can so relate, you guys, because that's what I do in my like my day-to-day. Like, the night before every day, I plan my whole day like to a T. It's like, okay, 5 minutes I have to use the restroom to pee. Okay, not like that, but like, you know, you get it, right? And so today, like, this is a monumental day for her because she has an interview for this corporate law firm, which she wants to be a corporate law lawyer, and it's with a company called Watchtel, and she has been wanting to work for this company ever since she was a little girl. And I mean, she was going on how, you know, she would make her dad take her to the building like every freaking day in New York City when she was younger, and she always envisioned herself, and she knew exactly when she wanted to be there and this whole thing. So she got an interview, and so she's going through the motions of getting ready, and while doing so, she clearly relates that her boyfriend David is going to propose to her. And the reason being is because, she, like I said, she's a numbers person. So she says to herself that she's going to get engaged, or like the proper time to get engaged is the year when you're 28 years old. When you get married, you have to be 30 years old. And so she's clearly already, you know, they've had these conversations in their relationship. And so she's like, I'm 2 months into my 28th year, and he's taking me out to the city. Oh, like, he's taking me where? Okay, yeah, I'm gonna be getting engaged tonight. So not only is it interview day, it's also engagement day, you guys. So then she obviously gets ready. She goes to her like favorite morning restaurant to get like some whitefish bagel, which I have no idea what that is. I'm gonna look that up later. Then she goes to Watchtel, and she's sitting down, and she's having a conversation with like some like senior head partner, and she's basically like nailing the freaking interview. Like, yes, queen, yes, girl, like let's freaking get it. And so she's, like I said, she's like nailing, like she knew exactly all the questions. Like, she said that she could draw a whole floor plan of basically how this company works, and the guy seemed to be impressed. And so she's just like, yep, I had this in the bag, and I'm getting engaged. Great. So she goes, after that, she's like, you know, obviously, like, I have the job. So she goes to Reformation, which is like a clothing store, I guess, in New York City, to find like the perfect engagement dress. And she goes in there, and she's like, oh, you know, can someone help me? And the lady's like, oh, well, what do you need? She's like, I need my engagement dress because I'm gonna get engaged tonight. And the lady's like, how do you know that, right? Like, how the fuck do you know you're getting engaged? And she's just like, look, I just know. And so chapter 1 ends there. So, you know, guys, I think I'm gonna really like this. Like, the only thing I will say is that I know I'm putting a little spice, a little flavor, but it's just because like the character is so like precise. But she's kind of just, it's kind of funny like how precise she is, and like you can obviously tell that with this book something's just gonna go haywire, like something's gonna go wrong. And clearly we know that like in 5 years she's not gonna be where she thinks she's going to be, right? She's gonna have a new man according to the sleeve of this book. That's what it says, you guys. So I'm really interested. I'm gonna continue. I'm gonna go into chapter 2 as we speak, and then I'll get back to you a few chapters from now. Okay, you guys, so this is like a very quick read for me. So I'm done with chapter 2. It only took like, I felt like a few minutes. So basically, all right, so we're just gonna jump in. So he takes her to a place called the Rainbow Room, which is on the 65th floor of 30 Rockefeller Plaza, which I'm actually interested. I'm gonna like look this stuff up because I really don't, like, I've only been to New York City once, and it was when I was like in 8th grade. So it's been, oh god, like 12 years, 13 years ago. I don't know. How old am I? 25? And so he takes her there because this is like the place that like like speaks volumes to her, and she knows that he knows that this is like what she's into, right? Like she wants it to be public, but like she doesn't want it to be public, right? Like she's like one of those girls, like she wants the big fancy ring, but like don't, you know, like don't make it obvious that it's the big fancy ring. And so she's there, like I said, she already went to the clothing store. She's wearing this like really hot red dress that's like subtle but sexy, because you know this place is apparently like suit and tie type of place. And she meets him and she's just like, okay, he's gonna do it here, but like when? Like she doesn't know exactly when. Like, is it gonna come out of a souffle? Is it gonna be in the creme brulee? Is it gonna be in her wine? Like, you know, like what is he gonna do? And so she basically like goes through the whole dining experience just like waiting for it at every turn. She's like, okay, clearly he's not doing it at the beginning, right? Clearly he's not doing it when they have their lobster, because she was like, oh, it's gonna be in the lobster tail, which I'm kind of like, do y'all find that like romantic? Like if your guy or girl, whoever, like puts a ring in your lobster tail, like is that cute to y'all? I don't know. Like if Alex did that to me, I would be kind of like, because you know, to be honest, like I love lobster, so I might scoop that shit up because like, let's be real, I don't pay attention too much to my food. Once it's in front of me, I just scarf it down. So yeah, but like I said, she thought it was in the lobster. It's clearly not in the lobster. And so dessert comes, and apparently he buys like one of everything on the menu, which like this place sounds so expensive. I don't know how much they're spending on this, but like my guess is like at least like $1,000 because of the champagne, the wine. They got, you know, appetizers, the main course. I mean, lobster is really expensive. And if he bought one of all the desserts, I mean, this just has to be like, wow. Like, this is a wow factor place, which I kind of want to go to in real life. Not spend $1,000, but I want to go. And so clearly, like, things are happening. They bring out the dessert, and she's like, oh my gosh. And she's so focused on finding the ring on each thing that she doesn't even realize that when she looks up, David is like completely like not in her like viewpoint. So she's looking around, and apparently like she looks to her side, and of course, what is he doing? He's on one knee with the ring, and of course it's beautiful, of course it's grand, it's like chic, it's classic, it's a, you know, just like a modern classic style that of course she loves. And you know, he goes through this whole like, oh, I love you, baby, and let's, you know, live life together, and you know, you're not just some plan to me, which I found that really weird. That he kind of said that, because you know, they're both clearly planners, right? But she's more of like the person who like literally like, okay, 8 a.m. this is what I'm doing, 8:05 this is what I'm doing, 10 a.m. this is what I'm doing. And so apparently like when they were 6 months into the relationship, they were so in love, they knew that they were going to be each other's soulmates, that they created like this whole life plan, which in retrospect, like in hindsight, that's really cool that they did that. I really don't know a lot of people. Like me and Alex were definitely not that couple, because we've been together for over 9 years, and it wasn't until like quite recently, like in the past few years, where we've really gotten serious about, okay, like what is our life going to look like. So the fact that they did it in 6 months, I mean, that's kind of crazy. But they go home, and she's basically, there's like a little part that's so interesting to me. Yeah, so they go home, and it's 2 hours later. They're hungry, they're buzzing off their champagne, and they sit down, and what do? They order Thai food. So you're gonna tell me that you're gonna spend like several $100s and then go home just to eat like $10 rice? That doesn't make sense to me. Like, why are you still hungry? Like, did you not order every single freaking dessert off the menu? I mean, I would have just like guzzled everything, and I wouldn't even have room in my stomach if I got home and I'm still hungry. Like, that's just like not me. But basically they're like that. And she has this thing where she says, I want to put on sweatpants per usual, which, girl, go ahead and do your thing. But something tells me not to. Not tonight. Not yet. If I were different, someone else. Bella, for example, which Bella is her best friend, by the way. I know I haven't really introduced her, but Bella is basically her friend who like travels the world. She's kind of like that, you know, like that travel auntie that everyone talks about. She's basically that, but like in friend style. So she's in Paris right now, living it up. And of course, like she's like, oh, my best friend knows, like no one can lie to me. Like apparently her best friend and her boo thing are like terrible liars, and like she can just catch them in lies. So she knew that this was happening because her friend had called her previously and was like, bro, so what are you doing tonight? She's like, oh, you know, we're just going out to celebrate. She's like, right, celebrating. So yeah, her best friend knew. But then at the end of chapter 2, basically they just end the night sleeping on the couch, and she says, I yawn, within a minute I'm asleep. So I'm assuming that the next chapter is going to be where she wakes up 5 years from that exact date with a whole new man and a whole new different ring. So I cannot wait to jump into this. But right now I'm actually really hungry. It's in the evening time. It's about 7 p.m. you guys, and I am hungry. I left out some Chipotle lime chicken to eat, so I think I'm gonna grab that, take a little break. I might come back, or I might just start this again tomorrow morning. It's just because my natural lighting is starting to go down, and I can clearly tell from looking in the viewfinder. So yeah, I'll be right back, you guys. So it is the next day, and I'm gonna be real with you all. So I may have read chapter 3 to almost chapter 8 by accident last night without filming. And look, like, I'm gonna blame it on the book because 1, it's hella good, and 2, it's like a very fast-paced read. I'm just gonna give you like a little rundown so far of like what I've read, right? Because shit's wild. So chapter 3, which is like where I was going to start with filming last night but completely forgot, basically is the 1 hour situation where she's in 2025, right? It's the same exact day, which is like some day in December. And she wakes up after, you know, supposedly having like her engagement party, and she's like, bro, where am I? Like, why am I in a different room? Like, who is this man? Like, cause she heard a man's voice, and she was like, that's not David. Like, who is this? And she's contemplating like, okay, did I get kidnapped? Maybe David took me somewhere. Like, what's going on? And she looks down, and she's like not even wearing the same dress, and like it's just like this whole ordeal. So she gets out of bed and she meets the guy, and he's just like looking at her like, oh, like you kind of slept late, like, you know, what's going on? Like, are you hungry? And she was like, no. He's like, yes you are, I could hear it. And then like she immediately went to the restroom, right? Because she's like panicking, and you know, I don't blame her for that because I would have done something similar. And she's like, what is this guy's name? Like, he clearly knows me. Like, she could hear in his voice that there's like history between them, and she kind of feels like a gravitational pull towards him. And so she's just like, let me find out his name, like, where's his wallet? And then she realizes that he had his pants that I guess he had worn like that day, like splayed out somewhere, I don't know. And she goes, she finds his wallet. It turns out that his name's like Aaron Gregory. She's like, Aaron, I don't know this man. Like, this is clearly not David. So she goes out to the kitchen where he's like cooking some type of pasta, and she's just like, kind of just like realizing that he's hot. And she was like, he is hot, like too hot for me. Like, I would never be with someone like him because he's basically too hot. And so you're like, ah, okay. So he's clearly hotter than her current fiance. And they just kind of, you know, they don't really like chit chat. She's just kind of like all in her head, you know, she has like all these thoughts. And she eventually eats the pasta. It's like freaking delicious, it smacks, and she starts contemplating like, oh my god, like, you know, maybe if I talk to David somehow, like maybe he can fill me on like what happened, like what's the situation, why am I with this guy? Or like maybe her best friend Bella knows, like maybe she should hit her up. And you know what, girl? I would do the exact same thing. She almost contemplated running out of the building to go talk to Bella or to find David, but like he convinced her to stay, which I guess that's like his seductive, like, oh, you know, you're mine and I'm hot and that's what we're just gonna do. But anyways, so yeah, so then basically chapter 3 ends where they start love making. There's not too many details. I mean, it's kind of like frisky, just like a little bit. Like, you can obviously tell that she's like wanting it. And like, I guess like during the middle of their lovemaking session, she snaps back into reality, which I think it's the start of chapter 4. Which, by the way, you guys, these chapters are so small. They're like, you know, anywhere between like 3 to 7 pages. So I think that's also why I think it's like a fast-paced read, because y'all, like I I was going. And it wasn't until, I think I stopped reading at like 11:54 last night. And I just like really, honestly, like, I was just like, wait, I'm kind of tired. And I haven't been filming. Like, I had the whole tripod set up, you guys, and I just didn't do it because that's how good this thing was. Okay, so chapter 4 is her waking up, right? And obviously it's still like their engagement night, and she's just like, she sees David, and David's like, oh, like, are you awake? Like, are you hungry? Like, I'm not hungry. And he was like, you're lying. Like, you were hungry an hour ago. And so basically she's just like trying to figure out like, what the hell just happened? Was that like a dream, or like, was this like a reality? Was I in another dimension? Then her best friend Bella calls, and Bella's like, you know, in Paris, and she's with another guy. And basically she tells Bella kind of like a snippet of like, oh, do you think it's weird that I had this like very like just realistic dream? And her friend's like, what? Like, I can't hear you. Like, I'm at a party. Like, yeah, like, no, you know, like, she's just kind of like not like focusing. And so clearly Danny's just like, okay, like, clearly Bella's not listening to me right now, so I'm just gonna end the conversation. And that was it. And then chapter 5, so the first paragraph, sorry guys, of chapter 5 is just basically her going through time. Yeah, it's just like a year after year after year. So of course it says, I get the job, of course I do. They call me a week later and offer it, a fraction below my current salary. I argue them up, and by January 8th, I'm giving my 2 weeks notice. David and I moved to Gramercy, which is just like this really, I guess, I don't know, chic place in New York City. I don't know if it's a real place or not. I'm pretty sure it is. But basically, like, that's both of their plans, to live in this place. And I think I'm pronouncing it right, Gramercy. I don't know. And then it happens a year later, almost down to the days when they moved. And then they find a unfurnished sublet that they move into. And then literally a year later, something opens to buy it. And so she said 4.5 years pass, and like every single day she thinks about that freaking dream. She even goes to therapy, and her therapist is just, you know, like, oh, maybe you're having problems, like worries with David, and maybe it's just too much stress, you know, just like stereotypical things that you think a therapist would say. And however, she said that she did feel good going to see her therapist, because, wait, sorry guys, I lost my train of thought. Okay, so she went to her therapist, and she said it was a good thing because she kind of felt better, like, on the inside, you know, like, okay, maybe I could just leave all my worries with this therapist, and then once I, you know, open the doors to the outside world, like, that's it. And apparently that's what happened, because she went to the therapist a week later after that dream. Like, that dream must have been so realistic, you guys. I mean, obviously it was, but like, can you imagine having a dream like that? You know, like, there are a couple of dreams that I've had in the past where they're like super realistic, but like never to the point where I'm, you know, seeking help, you know. So dang. So this dream has her, right? So for 4.5 years, she's just like la-di-da-di-da in her life, I guess. And then she meets Bella. Yeah. So basically, so that literally, this chapter was 3 pages. I'm kidding, like, you guys, they're like, these things are so crazy. So anyway, so chapter 6 is basically, so she meets Bella for brunch or lunch at this cafe called Buvette. It's a tiny French cafe in the West Village. And apparently she hasn't seen Bella in 2 months, which apparently is like the longest time that they've gone without seeing each other. And so now, like, they're catching up. Clearly, you know, 4.5 years later, she's still thinking about the man. But, you know, like, her and David, oh, this is another thing. So her and David have not gotten married yet, and it's 4.5 years. So her plan to getting married by 30 is already like tossed out the window. And she says in this chapter that they just constantly like make excuses for each other, like, oh, you know, 1 year his dad wasn't doing so well, then they moved the next year, and it's just like of course there's like big things happening in their life, right? But nonetheless, she doesn't get married. So like I said, that's out the roof. So her, you know, in 5-year plan is already like messed up. So anyway, so she meets Bella, and you know, they're just like catching up, and you know, just like little chit chat And then Bella's just like, hey, so there's somebody that I've been speaking to and I really want you to meet with him. Like maybe we can have lunch or dinner, you know, sometime soon. And, you know, Danny's just like, oh, it's probably just like one of her flings, you know, like she's gone with like, you know, several different people in the past. And she kind of talks about it like a little bit where basically like Bella, ever since like 4.5 years ago, she ends up buying an art gallery. And she's just, you know, been super busy. She's been kind of tied down to like one place. So she hasn't really been as like adventurous as she was like in chapter 1, basically like chapter 1, chapter 2. And so anyway, so like, yeah, she meets this guy, she's talking to him, she's been talking to him, and she's like, I really want you to meet him, Danny, like he could be it, like I'm in love, basically. So Danny's like, yeah, like we'll go to dinner. So 2 weeks later, which literally chapter 7, so this is the last chapter where we're gonna talk about it until the next time. So chapter 7, so it's basically her and David are going to meet Bella for dinner, clearly with this other guy. And, you know, Danny's like, oh, you know, I'm gonna try and be early. And so her and David go early to the place because like she always just wants to be that punctual person for some reason, and like Bella's always like 20 minutes late for everything. Well, she gets there and like Bella's already outside, and she was like, okay, clearly like a couple things either went wrong, like the person either was a no-show or maybe they already got into a fight. And she's like, this has happened before, so like if it is happening, then we're just gonna, you know, have dinner or whatever. Well, that's not the case. She gets out the car with David and Bella's like, hey guys, so like, you know, thanks for coming. And then who walks near them? Mr. Aaron Gregory himself. But he goes by Greg because he like came in and Bella's like, oh, this is my new man. And he was like, hey, I'm Greg. And she just like Danny was like, oh my God, like in her head, like she basically is like having a heart attack because she's just like, this is the guy from my dreams from 4.5 years ago. I've been thinking about this man. I've been like forcing myself to have daydreams about this man. And like, here he is, like this happened, I guess like in the worst possible scenario, right? Because she's like, oh, maybe I'll meet him like at a coffee shop or like on a train. But like, yet it has to be that her best friend is basically hooking up with this guy. So you're like, okay, so this is how this book is gonna go. I can see it now. But anyways, yeah, so she meets him and they go into dinner. And like I said, like sorry guys, there's like something in my eye. I think an eyelash is in my eye. 1 second. I'm back. I'm so sorry about that. I had an eyelash in this eye and it just started like watering, it started hurting, so I had to wash out my eye. Yeah, so anyways, they go to dinner, right? And she's just like having anxiety and a heart attack. And you know what, like who wouldn't during this time, right? Like, dude, I would feel the exact same way if I saw the man, not only the man for my dreams, but he's with my best friend. Like, damn, you know, like what are you gonna do? Like, you can't say anything, right? Like, you can't just go to Bella because it's been 4.5 years anyways. Like, she would think you're crazy and, you know, probably starting like some crap to get her man. But anyways, so they're sitting down and she's trying to make small talk with him, and she's just like, Greg, that's your name? He's like, oh no, it's Aaron Gregory, but like that's what, you know, I just go by. And then she's like, okay. And then, oh, like, where do you live? Oh, I live over here. And she's like, huh. And then out of nowhere, she just like can't stand to be there at the table with him. So she's like, oh, I need to go to the bathroom. So she goes to the bathroom, and like her fiance David, he like, I feel so bad for him because nothing bad has happened, or like he hasn't shown a side that I don't like. So like he's just like the perfect person. And she kind of states it in the book because like he follows after her, and you know, she's kind of like thankful for that. And he's like, hey, like what's going on? You know, that was kind of weird. And she's like, oh, like I'm just nauseous, like I feel like I'm gonna throw up. And he's like, oh, well, let me go get the car, like don't worry about it, I'll let them know that something happened, you just wait outside. So that's what happens. And as soon as he comes outside though, Bella's with him, and you can clearly tell that like she's just like, you obviously don't like him, like why are you leaving, like this isn't like you. And then of course David to the rescue, he's just like, oh, you know, she had a fever like before this, so like this is just like the after effects, and you know, we need to get her home. So like he lied for her, like he clearly like he knew that something was up, but like, you know, it's just like couple goals, you know what I mean? So they go, you know, back to the house, and he's like, oh, are you sure you're feeling okay? Like, just rest. And so what does she do? She goes to bed. So yeah, so that was chapter 3 through chapter 7. Like I said, they were like very quick reads, you guys, so I was just like killing it. And plus, like, it's just so interesting. I had, you know, I kind of had an inkling that she was gonna go with his that he was gonna go with her best friend Bella, because I was like, why is Bella important? But now I understand. And the fact that David is just like the perfect fiance, you guys. I don't know. I feel like this is gonna be like one of those books that tears my heart into two. But we'll see. So let's get back to reading. All right, you guys, so this is kind of depressing. The book kind of took a turn that I wasn't really expecting. So yeah, so my mood and my emotions went from here to here, because I thought she was pregnant, but it turns out she's not pregnant, Bella. And she actually got diagnosed with ovarian cancer, and they think it's stage 3. And so she just told Danny, and Danny went to go see her, and, you know, Aaron has been crying. Bella's, you know, a mess as expected. And so Danny's like, okay, let me call your father. Let's see if we can, you know, just basically get a second opinion with like one of the best doctors out there. And so they go to Dr. Finke, and basically he's like a super sweet man. And he kind of just tells, you know, Bella and Danny that they're going to run more tests, but, you know, they won't know until, you know, whatever. And then until they find out the results, basically. And then he sends them to Dr. Shaw, who has worked with Dr. Finke in the past. And basically the test results confirm that she does have ovarian cancer, and that they're basically going to, it looks like they're going to do a full hysterectomy and take out her tube, so she won't actually be able to have kids, she won't be able to reproduce. And I think, and y'all can, you know, tell me if I'm wrong, I think a full hysterectomy also makes it to where you can't have your period again. And so she's in her early 30s, and she's having to, you know, not only battle with cancer, but she's, you know, taking out her whole uterus. I mean, that's something that I would, you know, I just can't imagine. So it's very sad. And Aaron, though, he's been by her side, like he's actually, you know, been sticking through it. And Danny's just, you know, she's just a bundle of nerves, to be honest. And so she's basically been by her side this entire time. So Dr. Shaw basically tells Bella that she needs to go into surgery like immediately. So they plan it for the upcoming week, and that's basically, it's going to be like 5 to 6 hours, and they're going to see if surrounding organs have been infected, because of apparently stage 3 from the book is it hasn't affected the surrounding areas. So they're hoping that that's the case. That way they can just remove the tumor and, you know, start chemo, which he wants her to do 4 rounds. I just finished chapter 22. And so basically it's the day of surgery, and Bella's parents came, and they're not really that great of parents. Like, they're the type of people that literally had a child just because it was tradition, and they never really like grew up with her. They never took her places. Like, they were always the ones traveling and just leaving her at home. And so they're in the picture, and, you know, Danny is just kind of taking charge, and she's just, you know, what are the facts, you know, give me the numbers, doctor, how long, you know, not how long, but, you know, what are the chances that she's going to survive this surgery and chemo and all this stuff. And then at the end, Bella gets put into the surgery, so she gets wheeled away. and her and David sit together, and they're both just, you know, emotional wrecks. And, you know, they kind of just really, I feel like they kind of really don't know how to express their emotions, so they start giggling and like kind of making like, you know, like just those type of jokes that you make when you're in situations like this, like terrible situations. And so at the end of it, they leave the, I guess like the waiting room, and they go outside, and he's basically telling her that he has a surprise and he wants to take her somewhere. So the ending, not the ending obviously, but like this chapter kind of confused me, because you go from Danny and Aaron kind of being like cordial now. Like I don't know if they're gonna get together at the end of this. I kind of don't want them to now, just because of what's been going on with her best friend Bella. But like the ending is so weird. Like, what does it mean? He says, well, she says, "Where are we going?" I ask him. "My bones feel tired. I lift my leg up, testing." "It's a surprise," he says. "I don't like those." Aaron laughs. "You're gonna be fine," he says. He grabs my hand and we're turning up Fifth Avenue. So it's like, where are you taking her? Like, shouldn't y'all kind of be in the waiting room, like waiting for Bella? I know it's like 5 to 6 hours, but like, I don't know. I feel like it's just kind of weird. Like, you know, that wouldn't happen like realistically to me, but it, you know, maybe it's just how the characters are meant to be written. But I really hope, like, this whole vlog just took like the turn of like sadness. Like, I was not expecting this. Like, this hit me and I was just like, wow, like here I am thinking that she's gonna be pregnant, she's gonna have a child, and now it's not looking so great. So I don't know, you guys, but I'm gonna continue reading, but I thought I would just stop here just to share what I've been learning. You guys, so I just finished the book. Can you believe that? I finished this entire book in, I would say, about a day. I mean, it was just like such a quick paced read, but I'm just so in my emotions now. Like, this book is just so, I mean, the ending was a little bit of a relief, but oh my gosh. So I'm just gonna kind of like, you know, basically just summarize it for you, like the, you know, last couple of chapters. So the chemo for Bella literally just starts getting gruesome, just on the path to where she's most likely not going to come back from this. And the doctors do confirm that basically chemo is only making her die sooner rather than later, and so they decide to take her off the treatments. And it's just, you know, a lot of things happen. So geez. So Danny decides to basically tell the truth to her fiance David, that as much as she loves him, like, she cannot imagine getting married to him. Like, it's just like she's not in love with him. Like, she loves him but not in love. And so he basically kicks her out. And she goes to Bella's, of course, and she's there for a couple weeks. So it's basically her, Bella, Aaron, and then her mom, like periodically like stepping in every once in a while, and like a servant that's helping around the apartment. And so she's staying there, and you know, she's just kind of going through her day. Like, she obviously she goes to California to start the deal with you know, to become like a huge senior partner, and that kind of goes like not too well. And so you're just kind of like, oh, I don't know, to me I was just kind of like all over the place. I was like, okay, everything bad that could happen is happening to the main character, to her friends. It's just like really terrible. And I was just like, oh my god, like what? Like, is there going to be some type of like relief, you know, at the end? And there was. So basically the end, we see that well, let's start with her corporate life, right? So she doesn't necessarily get like the company to register to go public, but instead they want to hire her on as like the lead senior, I guess not partner, but like one step below partner basically. And so she is officially on track that if she wins this new, I don't know, what do you call it, this new project, she will become partner. So that's a huge relief. So now we're like, okay, so she is on track to become a partner. And then as far as her love life, you know, she's not with David anymore. And at this point, like, I'm like, okay, I don't think she's going to get with Aaron. Like, I just don't see it. And that is true. So unfortunately, Bella, she does pass away at the very end of the book. And however, but like right before she passed away, she gifted the main character, Danny, the apartment that she had her premonition in. And everything that everything that she saw in the apartment was gifted from Bella. So everything from the stools to the portrait on the wall to the bed, I mean, everything Bella had customized just for her. So she left her the apartment. And so that kind of clears up and ties that neatly in a bow of like how the apartment comes into play. They had like a little ceremony, and it was just, you know, close friends, and they went up to that rooftop place. So they had like a little ceremony with like close friends there. And then he ended up following her back to the apartment, and basically this is when the premonition happened. So like she says the exact same thing, she goes through the exact same motions, but now we understand, now we realize that they were actually celebrating, you know, her friend's life. And they do decide to have, you know, intercourse, which how they had in the very beginning when you think that this is going to be a romance book, and it's clearly not. They end up having intercourse, and then basically at the end of it, you just kind of realize that like they're not going to be a match. And he kind of set boundaries with her. He's like, oh, well, maybe we can have lunch like, you know, every week. But she's kind of like, you know, that's probably not going to happen. Like, this is probably that one-time thing, and we might catch up like every once in a while, but nothing special. And then it ends with Danny going to the deli, the nearby deli, and she runs across Dr. Shaw, who is one of Bella's doctors, towards the end. And they basically strike a conversation. And it just, that's how the book ends. So that was in 5 years. I'm gonna be real with you guys. So like, it honestly wasn't what I was expecting. So I had found this book off of Goodreads, which, like, you know, that's where I get pretty much all of my book inspiration. And I don't read reviews. Like, I just find, I mean, I know this is kind of shallow of me to say, but I first look at the cover. If I find it appealing, I'll look at the ratings, and I typically do anything above 3 to 3.5 stars. I'm not that super picky, and this book covered that. And so I picked it up at Target, and when I read the cover or the summary and the inside, it sounded like a romance book. Like, I was just like, oh, you know, like a drama romance. It's like, okay, we know she ends up with this guy, but like she's with another guy, and this is like 5 years, like what's happening? So I definitely felt like I was kind of like ran into a brick wall with each surprise in this book, because like I said, it wasn't what I was expecting. But I'm going to say, I think this is my top 10 or top 15 books that I've read in my entire life, and I'm actually really surprised by that. Like, I don't know. Like, I don't know what else to say. I mean, so on Goodreads, I did rate it 4 out of 5 stars. And the only reason I didn't rate it a full 5 was just because I feel like I was led astray, because I really did think that this was like a super romance book with just a lot of drama, and it wasn't. So I wasn't expecting, you know, what the book was actually. So yeah, so wow. I really thought that this was gonna be like a romance book. Like, I don't know why, guys. Like, I'm still stuck on that thought, but you know what, it was a great book nonetheless. I highly recommend it. Have some tissues when you read it, because you're gonna shed some tears. I shed quite a few with this. Like, I was reading it in the room, and I was just hoping that Alex wasn't gonna walk in and like see me just like crying my eyes out, because I got sad at some parts, and I'm just, you know, like, wow. But great ending, great book. Like I said, top 10, top 15, 4 out of 5 stars on Goodreads, not Goodreads. But yeah, so this is the first of many to come with reviewing books. I already have the next book picked out, so I just need to actually sit down and read it and start filming, which, who knows, I might actually do it just like, I might pick up right after, because I'm feeling a lot of like creative inspo. So we'll see. I might change my top though, because I feel like that would look weird. But you know. Alright guys, so that was the end of this vlog. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button, and don't forget to like this video if you really want more content like this. Definitely gonna do it in the future. And also, I'll link my Instagram below. That's another place where you can interact with me. But I really hope you like this vlog. This vlog. I'll see you next time. Bye.